This week, President Trump issued a warning to Russia to, quote, reach a peace deal with Ukraine within 50 days or see severe tariffs levied on the country and all the nations that support it. That is getting bipartisan support, including from our next guest. Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut is working with his Republican colleagues on a strong sanctions package against Russia. And he called the president's announcement a, quote, breakthrough step. And Senator Blumenthal joins us now. He's a member of the Homeland Security, Armed Services, and Judiciary Committees. It's good to have you back on the show. Tell us about this package and how far it goes.
The president's shift, Mika, is really a milestone change in his stance on Ukraine. As you well know, he has really operated as a sort of confidant and admirer of Vladimir Putin. And the Russian leader has played him and made a fool of our country as well as the President of the United States. And now, this week, he has said that he's going to sell arms to NATO, which then would transfer them to Ukraine. And equally important, he issued an ultimatum. 50 days, there has to be a deal to end the war, or he will impose 100% sanctions, including secondary sanctions, on anybody buying the Russian oil and gas, which mirrors the sanctions bill that Senator Graham and I have been working on for 2 years. It would impose 500% sanctions on India, China, Brazil, who are the major purchasers of oil or gas, not to raise revenue for the United States, not to reshore manufacturing, which are typically the reasons for these kinds of tariffs, but they are truly sanctions to change behavior and bring Putin to the table in a serious way. He may think that Trump is bluffing, but this bill is for real, and in order to dispel any doubts that Congress is going to move ahead.
Well, and you know, Iran thought that the president was bluffing. He said 60 days, and then on the 62nd day, I think it was, of course, things changed dramatically. Yes, the Israelis bombed Iran, but they certainly did that with the approval and I think the intelligence of the United States. And so 50 days likely means 50 days. I'm curious. You see the president's move as extraordinarily important. I take it a lot of your Republican colleagues feel the same way, and Democratic colleagues?
They do. They welcome it. In fact, one told me last night, which I think typifies a lot of their attitude, you know, the president's given me a lot of comfort. In fact, a lot of cover. And I think that effect on Republicans should not be underestimated. And we now have 85 co-sponsors for this bill, pretty unprecedented for a major initiative of this kind. We would probably get 90 votes as a majority. The bill does provide some flexibility for the president in the name of national security when he wants to invoke it, as typically these sanctions bills do. So there is some discretion built into the law. Republicans can point to it, but there's also congressional oversight. And I think that Republicans are therefore really strongly supportive. The majority leader, John Thune, is a co-sponsor. I hope he'll put it on the floor, allow us to vote.
We will see, Senator. I want to ask you about another vote that took place just a few hours ago, early this morning, and that is the vote to claw back $9 billion in the budget from foreign aid and from public broadcasting. $9 billion, obviously a drop in the bucket, but these are DOGE cuts from the federal government. There were two Republicans who did vote against it. It was a 51-48 vote. Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, saying we cannot cede our power as the Congress to the executive branch to just make cuts to the budget as it wishes, and yet Republicans did exactly that this morning. So what is the significance of that vote?
Well, you're right, Willie. It's a drop in the bucket, 0.1% of the total budget, but it is profoundly important for its impact on local broadcasting, PBS and NPR. have a very, very important service role in supporting local broadcasting. And this could be devastating to local news, whether it's the town council or the weather. And around the world, the impact on foreign aid will be devastating as well. But it's also a matter of principle. You know, this move by Republicans is intolerable bait and switch. They engaged in bipartisan action to approve this funding just months ago. Now, unilaterally, in a very partisan way, one-sided, blanket canceling or clawing back of this money means that they are ceding essential authority to the president to determine what he's going to spend and what not, and to themselves, breaking the institution's bipartisan approach to appropriations. So there is a constitutional issue here, and there's a practical issue of how we go forward in September when we're going to have to fund the government, and there has to be bipartisan support. Why should Democrats go along with an agreement as to how to fund the government when that agreement can be simply shredded by the president or by a partisan Republican 50-vote majority?
Richard, it's Claire. I was watching the rescission vote yesterday, and I thought of Senator Byrd. I thought of Danny Inouye. I thought of the giants of the Senate that were appropriators. And as you know, we always said there were three political parties in the Capitol: the Democrats, the Republicans, and the appropriators. It seems to me the vote yesterday was not about the money. It was not about how much money or where the money was getting cut. It was about power for Trump. It was about showing the world that the Republicans no longer care about whether or not Congress has any authority. And I'd like you to speak to one vote that I thought was really telling on that vote yesterday, and that was Mitch McConnell's. I don't get it. He's a big appropriator. He's not running again. Clearly, he believes, just as Susan and Lisa do, that this is the wrong thing for the Senate to do. Can you figure out what in the world Mitch McConnell was thinking when he voted to give up all the power of appropriators to the executive branch?
Claire, you have it absolutely right. And I'll tell you, I thought of those giants of the Senate, but I also thought of Bob Dole and John McCain, who believed in the institution and the norms and the practices that are accepted and make the institution work. People are saying wherever I go, why can't you people work together? Why can't you get things done? That vote last night is Exhibit A for how Republicans are breaking this institution. And on Mitch McConnell, he voted against going forward, the motion to proceed, without going into all the procedural weeds here. Then he, in effect, reversed, and he voted for the final bill. I have no way to explain it, except remember also that Mitch McConnell is the one who delayed the vote on Merrick Garland, so he could not be a Supreme Court justice. At the end of the day, for him, it may be a matter of power, even though he's not running again. And I really am so deeply disappointed in Republican colleagues, but I can't say that I'm astonished or surprised.
Well, you can also ask a question about Thom Tillis, why he voted the way he did, again, retiring. Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut, thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it. Claire